The update on Matt Riddle. I wanted to talk about him. It sure does look like Matt Riddle is NXT bound. Riddle has been one of the marquee performers on the independent scene for a while now. It's kind of ridiculous, to be honest with you, that he has not been picked up sooner by a major promotion, whether it's in this country or Japan or wherever. I'm sure that had a lot to do with his pot habit. He is known for it. He's almost infamous for it. He was released from UFC. He actually fought in the UFC for a while, and he got released for failing 2 marijuana tests. I think it was in a 6 or 7 month span. So yeah, he likes the stuff. Pot is against the rules in WWE, but it's only a fine. It's not like a suspension or a termination or anything like that. Nobody's getting fired for smoking pot. I know in Japan, weed it's just a different culture over there. Apparently, it's frowned upon. Actually, if you get caught doing drugs of any kind in Japan, including marijuana, which, I wouldn't put marijuana, for example, in the same class as frickin' heroin or anything like that, but even getting into trouble with marijuana, I think is considered a felony, and they'll throw your ass in jail. You may not be able to get back into this country. I know Matt Sydal got in trouble the last time he was in Japan. He was in a lot of trouble. And I mean, he's back now, but it was kind of dicey and kind of scary for him there for a while. I think he got caught with liquid marijuana, THC, or whatever exactly it was that he had on him. I'm not even sure if he, smuggled it into the country, and if so, why you would do that. That's a stupid thing to do. But anyway, so they take that shit very seriously over there. But the man is too talented not to make it big somewhere. He'll be a huge star in NXT. I mean, he won't even have to try. And he will get over. He will be a big star there. He can work. I personally, I haven't been to any of like the Evolve shows or any like sort of big independent shows that he's been on. Although I've watched his matches like online. But I've been to some smaller independent shows, like even here around Brooklyn, going back 2-3 years. I remember a match that he had actually not very far from where I live. I literally walked to the building. It was a VA hall near my apartment. There was a wrestling show here just a few years ago, and it was Matt Riddle against Tommy Dreamer. And Dreamer did the spot, which I think is kind of gross, but whatever. He did the spot because Riddle wrestles barefoot. At least he did. I don't know if he still will if he goes to NXT, but he did the spot where Dreamer bit his foot. Like, he put his foot in his mouth and, like, bit down on it. Like, they had this whole big match. And so, anyway, I've seen a lot of Riddle going back a number of years. And the guy he can work. He is insanely charismatic. He does have a legit MMA background, like Brock Lesnar or Bobby Lashley. Riddle went 9-3 in UFC, although 2 of those wins got overturned. But he's the real deal. WWE and New Japan, supposedly, each one of them recently made him an offer. And the belief is that he has made his choice. And he could debut with NXT as early as TakeOver Brooklyn. Probably, I'm sure if he debuts there, it'll be something similar to what they did with Asuka, Bobby Roode, EC3, Keith Lee, Ricochet, where they're kind of waving in the front row. But he's already pulled out of the upcoming PWG Battle of Los Angeles tournament. He pulled out of some dates with the OTT promotion over in Ireland. I mean, this guy's pulling out like he's Wilt Chamberlain or something. The biggest sign yet is an ad for a CZW show this weekend. There's a CZW show on Saturday. And they literally, I don't know if they've taken it. I should probably check. They probably have taken it down if I had to take a guess. But they posted a graphic. They posted an advertisement, a poster for the show this weekend, literally this afternoon. And it has the tagline right there in the ad. It says, "Don't miss one of Matt Riddle's final indie appearances before going to WWE." So there you go. That's a pretty clear sign to me about where this guy is headed. And it's interesting because it was only last year that Riddle did an interview with Ring Rust Radio. And when he was asked about the possibility of going to WWE, I pulled the quote. This is what he said in this interview. He said, "I just don't want to go to WWE right this second. They have so much talent on their roster and so much going on. I'm not saying things won't change, but right now I'm working the indies and building my reputation. At the same time, I feel like there are a few things on my bucket list to do before I go to WWE. I would like to wrestle for New Japan, or at least wrestle in Japan. If I could be in Zack Saber's situation, that would be ideal for me right now. He wrestles for New Japan, Evolve, and PWG. He wrestles for all of the promotions that I do, but he also does New Japan. Ideally, for the resume, checking off New Japan is my goal. Maybe in the next few years, maybe 5 years from now, I can debut in WWE and make it big. I would go straight into the big show. No NXT. Nothing against NXT, but I've done UFC and a fair amount of the indies. So, as of last year, he wasn't interested in starting out in NXT. He thought he was too good for NXT. But he was on Sean Waltman's podcast only a few days ago, and he was openly talking about all of the big matches that he could have with people in NXT. He was talking about wrestling Aleister Black, who I've been saying this for at least a month now on my show. I think Black is going to the main roster after SummerSlam. It could even be as early as the next night. I've been saying that for a while, figuring that, I didn't necessarily know he was going to drop the championship on TV before Brooklyn, but I figured in Brooklyn he would drop it and he would move on up to the main roster. I still believe that. I haven't read or heard anything to that effect, but I could easily see him going to Raw or SmackDown very soon. But, in this interview on Waltman's show, he was talking about, I could wrestle Aleister Black, I could wrestle Roderick Strong, Ricochet, Tommaso Ciampa. So he's obviously changed his tune since then. I think he'll show up in Brooklyn, as everybody probably thinks he will at this point. And frankly, unless it's purely a money issue, and with Riddle, I don't know how strongly he's motivated by money over just being happy and having fun. I would not look at debuting in NXT as a bad thing at all. I'll take the NXT track record with some of these guys over WWE's track record with them on Raw or SmackDown. Riddle should do a year in NXT and then run to New Japan when Vince comes calling. That's what he should do. The talent, though, in NXT right now that Riddle can work with, it's pretty overwhelming. All the names that he mentioned in that interview, plus you throw in names like Adam Cole, Velveteen Dream, Pete Dunne, if he's not just exclusive to the UK brand that they're doing. It's too bad, though, that he never did land in New Japan, because I think he could, the matches he could have had with Naito and Suzuki. Matt Riddle against Minoru Suzuki, for crying out loud. Kota Ibushi. Toru Yano. Riddle against frickin' Yano would have been a fun match to watch. The point is, wherever he ends up, the fans win. And if WWE plays its cards right, they can make a lot of money with this guy. So if, in fact, he is going to show up in Brooklyn, that's a huge pickup for them.